Hey YouTube, just want to tell you a cool thing God's doing. I'm at the jail. Went to jail. So basically, this church that I'd gone to for the last several months, we just made a connection with a guy who did a bunch of time, and now he does prison ministry. So he invited us along, and I resisted for a little bit, but we ended up going. I have no experience with jail, so it's just an unfamiliar environment to me. But God kind of coaxed me into it and showed me some. When I asked him what he wanted to do, this stuff just came together. So this is our second visit that we got to come into the jail, and the first one was a positive, and got to talk to a couple guys in there. And this time we came in, and it was only 3 women. It was me, my wife, and the guy Don, who invited me into the ministry. And so I don't know. The topic kind of became rest and the flesh versus spirit, because I don't know if I've done a video about this, but about 2 months ago, maybe 3, I had a dream. And in this dream, I was in a bicycle race with this other guy, and he was a big muscle-bound dude, and he had a cross on his neck, and his name was Chris. And I'm all chugging and fighting to, push this bike down the road and win this race, and this other guy's just cruising by me with, no effort. And he wins the race, and I woke up, and I said, "Hey, Lord, what was that about?" And he just said, "It's the flesh versus the spirit." It's like trying to do things the carnal way versus trying to do things the spirit way. Trying to do things by believing God's promises and, just expecting God to hold up what he said. So that was the topic on some stuff, and I gave my testimony, told about, some stuff in Iraq and about how I got delivered from alcohol. And things got interesting. This lady across the table from me, there's, 3 women, and then me, my wife, and this other friend, so 6 people in the room. And this lady in the middle across the table starts telling about how she was struggling with some addiction and how it led to the death of her friend. And in that moment, I recognized this woman, and I said, "I know you." So I don't know exact time frames. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. But when the solar eclipse happened, we were in the path of totality. So just north of us, there was a big party where they just they rented out a bunch of farmland and invited people to come from all over the country to come, party down in this spot in the eclipse path. So about 2 weeks after the eclipse, this lady and her friend were driving back to California. And long story short, they got in a head-on collision with a DOT service truck, and the passenger died. When that occurred, I was coming northbound in a semi, and I saw this accident before any of the EMT, emergency police, before anybody showed up. And, I drive by in my truck, and there's a dead girl just sitting on the side of the road, propped up against this car. And I pulled over, and I'm like, God, what am I doing here? Am I supposed to raise the dead or something? And, it turned into, I prayed for the lady, and I prayed for the service truck driver that hit him head on. And I just got back in my truck and drove away well, that was weird. And I wasn't freaked out by the dead person, because, I've been to combat and been to a mountain of funerals and seen all that kind of stuff. But, I just wanted to be, available. If God wanted to do something, I wanted to be available for it. But I also kind of chastised myself because I wasn't bold enough to pray for this woman to come back from the dead. So for a while, I kind of scratched my head like, Lord, what was that about? Well, the woman that I met today across the table was the driver of that car. And it must have been 1.5 years since that event happened. And I just said, I know you. I don't know if you realize this, but I was there. I was praying for you. And I offered to pray for her, because she needs peace of mind. She had guilt, shame, and condemnation. The devil telling her, oh, you killed your friend and all this stuff. And, she's headed to prison. I don't know what the exact charge is, but, she's responsible for the death of her friend. But God is reaching this woman. Even though 1.5 years ago, she was in a accident that cost her friend her life, and then this woman's on her way to prison. This is only my second time coming into this jail, and only the second time I've ever met this woman. And God was able to orchestrate a thing where I was able to pray for her. And, it was a prayer of authority like Jesus would do, Guilt, shame, and condemnation, get off this woman. Peace of Jesus Christ, take over here. And that woman will never forget that. I will never forget that. And God is not limited by anything. Like, this woman's on her way to prison, and God orchestrated that stuff. These two meetings 1.5 years apart. And when I came to the jail this morning, I wouldn't say I was in the greatest mood. I didn't have a sermon prepared. I didn't have, some kind of giant revelation to share. I just went in there with the intention of, I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to expect the Holy Spirit to lead me, and then I will do whatever He wants to do. And as long as you're willing to do that, you can't go wrong. When I got up to pray for this woman, there's really kind of some rules about, like, you're not supposed to have much contact in there. If you go hugging people, that's opportunity for people to pass drugs, pass weapons, pass different kind of stuff. So they really kind of frown on that. And the guy that's been doing this prison ministry that invited me in was telling me later, like, you can't really do that kind of stuff. Like, you got to be careful about how much contact you're doing. And all I did was I held the lady's hand and prayed for her. And I looked at that situation the same way that I believe Jesus looked at a situation. And Jesus took direction from the Holy Spirit, and regardless of man's opinions, regardless of really legal traditions and such, the Pharisees said, hey, don't heal on the Sabbath. He was like, oh yeah, watch this. Be healed on the Sabbath. They were offended by him calling God his Father. They tried to throw him off a cliff, and he did what the Holy Spirit told him to do, regardless of their opinions, regardless of their traditions, regardless of their interpretations of religion. So my point with that is, be willing to obey the Holy Spirit and let God handle the rest. And as we left, the officer didn't say anything about, me grabbing a lady's hand and praying for her. He was actually, we're inclined to think that he was a Christian because you could tell by the things he was saying that he was in on the conversation. And we prayed for him, and that went well. So it's like we just had favor in the door, out the door. Blessed coming in, blessed going out. Deuteronomy 28. And that's just what I wanted to share. And I guess I'll leave with this interesting tidbit. I have not worn this shirt in forever ever. It's been in a tote in storage. The old Charger shirt, And if you go back into some of my old videos, the whole fire charger thing came about because I had a Dodge Charger and some stuff, you know. So shirt's got nothing to do with it. It's not like a good luck charm or anything, but I just find it interesting that I don the Charger shirt and wander right into interesting ministry opportunities. So, you know, God's not limited. I was looking at this as we were talking. No boundaries, you know. God can get into a jail just as easy as he can get into a tank, get into an accident, you know, not into an accident, but be there at the accident. You know, God likes to go crazy places, and sometimes he needs a man to be there to use. So, I don't have this all figured out. I just know, go places, be willing to be used by the Holy Spirit, let him handle the rest. That's what I got. God bless.